Jimbo Fisher got fired on his day off. The reason this is funny is because Texas A&M dumped Mississippi State on their head just less than 24 hours ago to the tune of 51-10. But the Texas A&M Board of Regents, according to ESPN, had already made the decision to fire Jimbo Fisher on Thursday. But they did not want to fire him before the game against Mississippi State because they believed that they had an 8-4 record they were still playing for, and they could really upend their chances of getting to 8 wins if they fired the head coach before playing Mississippi State. So imagine being Jimbo Fisher, waking up to see you are 6-4, feeling pretty good about what you've been able to accomplish so far and what you might still be able to accomplish what's left in the season, to find out, hey, Jimbo, you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. And here is College Station. My goodness, this is funny. It's funny because we've been talking about Jimbo Fisher and whether or not he's going to get fired at this job for the better part of 3 years now, right? It's basically been since 2020, which, by the way, was a great year for Texas A&M football. They finished number 4 in the final AP rankings and won an Orange Bowl, but 2020 is mostly a junk year for everybody but Bama. Perspective here. Iowa State won its first major bowl game ever, the Fiesta Bowl, against Oregon, also in 2020. And that was the year that people were like, Brock Purdy might be good. And the year I was going, do you realize that Breece Hall is a unanimous All-American at Iowa State? Yeah, explains a lot about how Brock Purdy could be more successful at a place like 49ers where everybody is essentially a unanimous All-American. But I digress. The reason that I digress is because, well, taking into account what Jimbo Fisher has and has not done has been kind of a wild ride at A&M. Because while he has beaten Nick Saban and became just the second assistant to ever accomplish that feat, and the first one not named Kirby Smart to do so, he also put the money in the bag against Appalachian State. We're talking about an A&M program that has not won a road game against an SEC foe since Missouri in October 2021. We're talking about an A&M team that was supposed to be what Missouri is now. We're talking about an A&M program that had the best recruiting class of all time. It was so good that Jimbo Fisher felt he needed to come out in front of people using a microphone, his glasses, a notepad, and a pen to talk about we don't pay for players. I got to deal with some dude from Bro Bible named Sliced Bread telling us that we pay for players, to which the rest of us are like, I don't know, dog. Y'all had the foremost name, image, and likeness apparatus in the country, and everybody knows A&M is about its money, okay? You got boosters whose pockets are as deep as the mid-continent pool, okay? You got boosters who look at oil barrel prices going down and are absolutely clutching their pearls. I look out Tulsa, okay, because we're an oil state, and I see $2.61 a gallon. They see, oh, this is carnage. This is all bad. And yet, with oil prices being what they are and gas prices being what they are, these boosters at A&M came up with $76 million to tell Jimbo Fisher to take a hike. It is far and away the biggest public school buyout we have ever seen in the sport. And it is so big, it is triple the second highest figure. Put in perspective, Gus Malzahn was asked to collect his belongings and get walked out by security to the tune of $21.4 million at Auburn. A couple years ago, Ed Orgeron was asked, hey, dog, would you mind cleaning out your office and turning in your card key because we're going to pay you $17 million to get on the way out? And Ed Orgeron didn't turn down nothing but his collar and said, you're going to pay me $17 million to go away? To sit on my couch? Oh, yeah. Give me that right now. I'll take that. And living his best life, I might add. Only person that I have seen take this kind of money and come back to coaching is 5-5 in Nebraska right now. By the way, Nebraska has botched 2 attempts to get bowl eligible in the last 2 weeks. That's why Matt Rule gave up $44 million to sit on his couch and mow his lawn. But that is essentially what Jimbo Fisher's being asked to do. Okay? That's wild to me. It's wild to me because he got this wild-ass extension on the strength of LSU wanting him. It is the second time LSU has made someone overpay for a head coach that didn't turn out to be no good. Okay? You'll remember LSU was like, hey, we think we might want Tom Herman. And Texas was like, nah, we want Tom Herman more. And LSU was like, you want to pay him that much to be your head coach? And they were like, yeah, we do. We want to pay him that much. So he goes to Texas. He goes to Texas. They hire Ed Orgeron. They win a national championship. What does Texas get from Tom Herman? Pain. I mean, they got a Sugar Bowl, but a Sugar Bowl that Georgia swears up and down they didn't care about. Pain. Tom Herman also got his walking papers. Did a stint with Chicago Bears. Now he's coaching Florida Atlantic. That is what it's going to be like for Jimbo Fisher, who was looking at that job after they were looking at your man Ed and talking about, I might go to LSU. I've won a national championship at Florida State. I'm a good football coach, and y'all be treating me poorly. And they're like, you know what? Is it money you want? And he was like, yeah, it's money I want. Then we will give you money. But you know what? There's only so much money you can get paid before you got to look around and see what your quality of life is going to be like to make this money. Okay? Myself, I've come to that realization myself. I would rather have a really great quality of life at a certain threshold than get overpaid by millions of dollars for somebody to be able to flip me the middle finger, tell me to take a walk. That's not the way you want to go out. It's one of these things that goes along with where we are in the sport. People talking about, I don't like transfer portal. I want to put these rules in place. And I'm like, cool. I want you to pay out the contract if you don't like the player no more. If you want to tell them that their scholarship won't be renewed, pay them the value of that scholarship. But we're not that far right now, right? Right now, we're looking at an A&M team that is already looking around going, I wonder who else we can get to do this job. And I find that really interesting because it wasn't like Jimbo Fisher was bad, right? And it ain't like A&M has ever been good. Like, let me put it in perspective. Jimbo Fisher went 45-25, won an Orange Bowl, finished top 5 in the country, okay? For A&M, that's about as good as y'all ever going to be. You know how I know this? Because A&M ain't won a conference championship of any kind since 1998, or the last year for which Oklahoma was foreseeably bad until 2022. So basically, y'all picked up and left a conference where you might have actually had a shot to go to a conference where you had the SEC Coach of the Year in Kevin Sumlin. You had a Heisman Trophy winner in Johnny Manziel. And what'd you have to show for it? A Cotton Bowl. A Cotton Bowl win over Oklahoma, I'll grant you. A Cotton Bowl. Y'all talk like y'all want to win national championships, so you went and hired a national championship caliber coach, to which we're like, cool, I will take you seriously. I even made that mistake. I ranked A&M a top 5 team last year. Didn't do that this year. Didn't do that at all this year. And what am I looking at? I'm looking at A&M doing A&M stuff. Not going, you know what, let the cake bake to parlay another one of these coaches that Nick Saban has put out in Nick Saban. But to say, nah, we can do better. And I'm looking around like, who you going to get this better? And it is such A&M thinking, because right now I'm already having to deal with A&M people believing that they're going to get, I kid you not, Dan Campbell, who's coaching the Detroit Lions, Dan Lanning, who's a one-loss team in Oregon and probably paying for a national title if they're undefeated, right? We're looking at Kalen DeBoer, for which I had to field Washington fans asking me, yo, RJ, why did we go get the dude for Fresno State? Because he's really, really good, guys. And kids really want to play for him. They're looking around at guys that got really good jobs at very secure locations and going, you know what? We could probably pay him to come over here. Let me put it this way for you A&M fans. If you end up with Glenn Schumann at Georgia, you better tip your cap and say thank you. You end up with Sharon Moore at Michigan, you better tip your cap and say thank you. But right now, unless you got a Lincoln Riley to pull out, I think you just let that dude go for Bobby Petrino. So Bobby Petrino going to try to coach his way through the rest of the season. And then if, and it's not that big an if, but if the rest of the staff goes the way of Jimbo Fisher, A&M boosters will come out of their pockets for $100 million to tell this entire staff to take a hike. I got to ask, if you are in the coaching profession, what about this A&M job do you find appealing? And you would probably tell me the money. And I would say, what else? And you would probably give me crickets back. So I hope either one or two things happen. Either A&M decides to stop being so A&M, which I highly doubt, and get on the good foot and say, hey, how do we make ourselves a little bit more ingratiating to the people that want to, perhaps win national championships? Why don't we take a look at ourselves and see what we got to fix? No. They're going to go get a dude that they're going to try to turn into somebody that come out of the Aggie network that they think is going to win no national championships. I got news for you. That ain't the way this goes down. All right, Jimbo Fisher, though. Take your money, dog. Don't sit on the money. Take your money. Go sit down for a while. Go ride your horses. Go back to West Virginia, country roads, all of it. And you know what? While you're at it, take Mike Yurcich with you because I think my man could use a little bit of a vacation. Penn State followed suit with A&M, took a look at the offense and said, you ain't it, dog, and gave Mike Yurcich his walking papers. I feel for Mike Yurcich on this, okay, for a number of reasons. One is, it ain't that he was bad as an offensive coordinator at Penn State, because he wasn't. It's that he was bad as an offensive coordinator at Penn State against Ohio State and Michigan. Your quarterback threw for 60 yards against Michigan. Your run game went for 49 yards against Ohio State. I look at your record, I see 8-2. But what Penn State fans see is losses to Ohio State and Michigan again. Okay. I'm just going to point out while we're here, James Franklin is 3-17 against top 10 opponents, and he has since had Mike Yurcich. He's had Ricky Ronnie, right? He's had Joe Moorhead. He's had a number of offensive coordinators that come through there, and it ain't seem to be working well. You know what I'm saying? He's had Kurt Soraka. Maybe it ain't the offense. Maybe it's got something to do with a dude that oversees the offense. But as it stands, James Franklin goes, we are going to go another way. I'm going, hey, look, Mike Yurcich got it up out the mud. Like, many of y'all don't know this, but Mike Yurcich was showing dudes how to run an offense at Shipping Bird State by using like Legos and little men. Got hired out of the bastions of college football by Mike Gundy, who does this, who goes to Gannon State or Gannon University and goes to Shipping Bird State to go get his coordinators like he does. Brian Nardo comes out of Gannon. Mike Yurcich came out of Shipping Bird State, gets some Stillwater, and turns that offense into something that goes with dudes named J.W. Walsh. Taylor Cornelius, who went by Corn Dog. Mason Rudolph, all right, maybe, sure, granted. But you give him a point here. He has done way more with way less than what he had at Penn State. Now, he's also had stops at Texas and Ohio State, to which I thought it was funny when Ohio State fans were bucking up to going, how much does Mike Yurcich get paid to do this job? I'm like, I don't know, dog. Maybe about as much as he got paid to do the job at Ohio State. I don't think it's a Mike Yurcich problem, but I understand you got to have a fall guy. You got to have somebody that you could point out in court said, yeah, Your Honor, he did it. So they've decided to go the Mike Yurcich route on this. I think Mike Yurcich is going to end up coaching offense again. I think he's a good football coach, and I think he's displayed that in a number of different spots. And you don't go from Shipping Bird State to 3 blue blood universities, right? Texas, Ohio State, and Penn State without being a good play caller. However, it's really hard to overlook just how anemic the offense has been for Penn State against the 2 class opponents in the Big Ten. And if you are the blessed independents that join the Big Ten and the Penn States of the world, you're also got to look around and go, are we just Penn State and are they just Ohio State and Michigan? And how long are we going to put up with this? Well, it seems like until Ohio State and Michigan decide to be bad, that's what it's going to be. Because if you measure yourselves against Ohio State and Michigan, especially over the last decade, I don't know who you're going to go get to do that job. As opposed to, do you win 10, 11 games a year? Because you do. Do you win a Rose Bowl? Because you do. It's a good program, right? I just think that you still got some work to do before you can start counting yourself as one of the 2 best teams in the Big Ten as opposed to one of the 3 best teams in the Big Ten. So those are the people that got fired on their day off following the week where other people got fired on their day off. And I dare say we will do another Sunday segment where we find out more people getting fired on their day off. If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.